Hi there, we're back on the 67 Hail Hail channel with me, Hamish Carton, looking at key issues of the day with Celtic. We've got two videos for you today. We'll be back with David Walton after the Leo game tonight for a live reaction, but we're going to bring you another video today, kind of talking about the off-field stuff, which is really important at the moment with regards to Celtic. Delighted to say that we've got Jeanette from the Celtic Trust joining us now for a chat.
Yeah,
Good to have you on, Jeanette. Just first of
thank you.
all, tell us a little bit about the Celtic Trust, because it's an interesting one to me because they've kind of always been there, but I've not necessarily known what they do. So what is it you guys do?
All right, okay. Yeah, well, this year is our 20th anniversary, so having a look at you, I'm guessing that we probably have always been here
Yeah.
since you've been around. Celtic Trust is a supporters trust, and there was a supporters trust sort of movement around about that time. We were the first one in Scotland. So some of us got together and created that. Now a trust is a very particular type of organisation. It's not like any type of supporters organisation where, so the association, the Irish Association, the affiliation, they run buses to games. That's what they are. Okay, and that's great. And so organisations like the Green Brigade and the Boys, they're about fan atmosphere and that type of thing. So that's great as well. And there's a lot of cross membership. So people who are in all those organisations can also be in the trust. So what the trust does is a mechanism for fans to effectively own Celtic. Okay, so it's a legal and financial vehicle, right? It isn't me, and it's no David Lowe, and it's no anybody else who's ever been in the trust. It's all of its members together. And it took us 2 years to set it up because we needed a really tight constitution, because we always planned to accumulate share ownership, and that share ownership would remain with the trust and it would be owned in common by all of its members. Um, and that we would build that up. And as well as doing that, because of course these sums are huge, so we always knew it was a long game.
Yeah.
As well as doing that, what we also wanted to do is there's about 25% of the shares in Celtic that are dispersed between about 27,000 people. And we wanted to try and get them to join with us, either join us as a trust or vote with us. So form a block, really, in order for supporters to have greater influence in this football club, which is so important to us.
Yeah.
So that's what we plan to do. But only about 1,200, 1,300 people ever vote out of 27,000. So anyway,
Wow.
so that's what we are. And that's what, but of course, in the meantime, we act, I said this to somebody yesterday, we act like a bit like a trade union for the Celtic support. So we'll all be on your behalf, with the government, with the police, with the club. We try and represent your issues. We try and give you a voice. So we held an open meeting, and that's something we do from time to time when there are big issues that affect everybody. We held an open meeting. This time it was on Zoom, so that was unusual. Over 300 people came to that. Then we take that discussion, go back to Celtic. We'll be meeting them next week, and we say, right, look, this is what we're saying. What have you got to say about that? What do you want us to tell people back? You need to be, really conveying all of those things. So forming a channel of communication. So that's really what it is. So we are about owning Celtic, but that's the long game. And in the meantime, we just want to be a voice and improve communications for the fans.
Right. So that's the end goal in many ways, is to have
Uh,
Celtic probably as a fan-owned club at some stage.
Absolutely, that's my end goal. And how
Right.
realistic people feel about that, I don't care.
Okay, that's fair enough. So that's the big goal. In terms of the smaller things you've done, I was on your social media channels, and I'll just read out a few of the things that you guys have been involved in over the years and
Yeah.
recently. The standing section, the club paying the living wage. You had a saying repealing the Offensive Behaviour at Football Act. And smaller things as well, like having advertising removed from children's kits. So
Yeah, that
you've
was
done a
years ago
lot
before
of
that.
You've
Yeah.
done a lot of things that people probably knew, well, obviously knew happened, but didn't necessarily know that the Celtic Trust had a big say in that.
We're terrible. We're absolutely terrible about getting people to understand what we've done. We just seem to be, we're quite professional and consistent and persistent, and probably, reasonably well respected by the club in terms of, we've always punched above our weight in terms of our actual membership, and we get things done. And we work with people, and we work with other supporters organisations, and we bring them together to discuss things. And we've been really, without sounding like I'm showing off here, I think we've really done a lot, but we're absolutely terrible at telling people that was us. Part of the problem is because the club has traditionally done, or the PLC board, sorry, I should say, has traditionally done this thing where when we put a resolution in AGM, and we were the first, fan body, and up to now, only one of two bodies who have ever been able to put something on the PLC AGM agenda paper. They vote it down, and then they introduce it later. So that's what they do. So we can never say, well, we won that vote. We don't win the votes, but we win the argument. So that has happened. So for a lot, so the dividend reinvestment scheme, where people are getting these really small amounts, about £18 a year, and we said, well, why don't you have a dividend reinvestment scheme? People don't care about they get £18, but they might care they get extra shares, so you build up shares rather than getting a small amount of cash back once a year. That spreads share ownership. That's what we, because that, while it's a PLC, that's the only way for us to take control.
Yeah, so I'm really frustrated. I'm a Celtic fan. I'm frustrated with the way the team's playing. I'm frustrated with the fact that the board just don't seem to be listening to the vast majority of Celtic fans that want change. They know that the way this season's going, and we know what has to be done, and the board aren't doing it. They're putting up fences outside Celtic Park. I signed up to the Celtic Trust last week. Never done it before. Paying £15 a month. Can you tell me what happens to that money, and what's the end goal from that point of view?
It's already happened. I think we've already spent it. We had the huge, and so after 20 years, we've become an overnight success.
Yeah.
So since Saturday, and probably more particularly since Sunday, there's a huge influx of members. Now, we had relaunched in January because it was our 20th anniversary, but of course we immediately then went into lockdown, so we had our new site, we did but and all the things that we thought we might have done to try and say, look, we're here, we're still here, we're doing this, just kind of went. But of course the current situation has made people think, when you think, well, I don't like what's happening, what can I do about it? And that's when you turn to people like us. So we've always been here. We're ready. This is, I suppose you could say this is our time, but that makes us sound as though we're happy about the club being, this difficult. And of course we're not, but that's always been the case. So trusts in other football clubs have been enormously successful because their clubs have at various points been into a crisis, and they've stepped up and they've done what fans do, and they've done all of that. We've never had that, because in the 20 years that we've been in existence, Celtic's been flying high.
Yeah.
So people don't care about things like that when things are good. So all these people joined, and I have been up to hours at night trying to answer emails, because we're sort of caught in the hop with that a little bit. So it's just so if there's anybody listening and you've sent an email, I can tell you you're no due one today.
Right after this call, you'll be replying.
I've just cleared it, right? But I've been up to hours trying to get these answered, and so a huge influx. So on the basis of that, because that money comes in, so you agree to pay whatever it is. So the minimum is £5 a month. It's like a membership fee. It's like any organisation, you have a membership fee, but you can choose to pay more because you support what we're doing, and you want to be a bigger part of that. You're not a bigger part in that, you're a member. So you're just a member. You have the same vote as everybody else. So it's not like that. And that money started flying in. So on Monday we bought shares. On Wednesday we bought shares, and I think today we're buying shares. So we actually doubled our share ownership. Now that's still a very small amount. These are tiny proportions. People say, what proportion have we got? Well, we've got 0.001%. That's what we've got.
Yeah.
If we were able to get all of those other dispersed shareholders to vote with us, we'd have close to 25%, which is significant. The most we've ever managed to get in terms of people supporting us, and if this is a measure of it, supporting us at an AGM, is 3%. But as I say, most people don't vote. So the big thing is getting people to use their vote. So from time to time, obviously no this year so much just because of the circumstances, but from time to time we have a sort of like get the vote out sort of campaign and say, look, please use your vote. We're not even telling you how, you're just going to use your vote, you know.
Yeah.
So we do that. So yes, so that money comes in and then we buy shares. So there's a tiny amount needed for administration, essentially running the website. You know, if we're back in normal times and we have to book a room for a meeting or something like that, those are the kinds of expenses that we have. They're nothing. So all of that money is used to buy shares, and those shares are held in the name of the Celtic Trust. They're owned in common by all of the members of the Celtic Trust, and they can never be sold. You know, people will say, why don't I just buy my own shares and vote with you? And yes, you can do that. And do that. I mean, lots of our members, I have my own shares because I just bought them in the McCann issue and I still have them. Yes, you can do that. That's fine. But that will always leave you vulnerable. Always. You know, there could come a point. So if my family was in debt and danger and I needed to sell those shares for my family, I would have to do that. The shares that are held by the Celtic Trust can never be sold by anybody. The Constitution and the legal framework means that those shares are held in perpetuity by the fans, basically. Anybody who chooses to be a member of the Celtic Trust. So the Celtic Trust is really just creates a constituency for a fan body, if you understand what I mean.
Yeah.
And they can never be sold. If, for any reason, the trust was dissolved, then it's in the Constitution that nobody can profit for that. Those shares will be sold and given to a Celtic-related charity. That's it. They can't go anywhere else. Nothing else can happen. We can't demutualise and we all take a payday. That can't happen. So that's why it took so long to make this the body that it is.
Right, no, that's really interesting. What I want to go and just finish this and chat about the protest that's planned for Sunday, the COVID compliant protest, I should say. What are the challenges for you guys and the Celtic Trust in terms of arranging a protest during a global pandemic?
Well, I mean, arranging a protest at any time is a serious and responsible undertaking. I'm somebody who, for a variety of different reasons, have organised protests going back 30 years. So the challenges, some of them change, some of them remain the same. What we did, and I completely understand that people have really serious concerns about this. They're concerned about the health issues, they're concerned about how that affects the team on that day, they're just concerned about how that looks, they're concerned about all of those things. I completely understand that. But here's the thing, these protests were happening. They are going to happen. They are going to happen. And we either come forward as a responsible organisation and take a leadership stand and say, this is going to happen, so we will do our best to give people the opportunity. I said earlier, it's all about giving fans a voice. Give people the opportunity to express their absolutely understandable anger about the fact that this board has done nothing that we can say, when everybody could see the season was starting to go down the toilet. And everybody could see it. You could see it. I could see it. The board either did nothing, or if they did something, we haven't seen it yet, and they haven't told us. So they sat there. They had absolutely nothing to say. Peter Lawwell has said nothing until there was a protest, and then he had plenty to say, criticising young fans. So that's the view we took. I understand it's a risk. Look, we're in a situation where I've just made a joke about becoming an overnight success after 20 years. This was like this 20 years of my life building this trust and other colleagues along with me. You know, things can go wrong with these things, but we just thought, well, it's going to happen anyway. So we either step back and, do the Pontius Pilate, wipe our hands, nothing to do with us, or you say, no, actually, that's our role and people have a right to express themselves. We need to help them do it safely. So we talked to the club, we've talked to the police, and we continue to do that, and we'll do that over the next lot of days, and we will make this the safest thing that we can make it. And if people want to attack us and abuse us, as they've done, there's really nothing we can do about that. Yeah. We're doing something that we think is right for the right reasons, if we turn out to be wrong, there's absolutely nothing we can do about that either. We have to go forward with a responsible attitude, and that's what we're doing.
Yeah, no, you're totally right. I mean, these things have been happening over the last couple of weeks, and they've actually turned into and given the board ammunition to turn it on the Celtic
It's
fans. You had
divisive.
the trouble
People
last
say,
week. You had the shoot the
yeah.
board stuff, which I think probably wasn't the kind of thing you want to be displaying, but the club immediately jumped on it. Neil Lennon was asked about it at his press conference. What do you hope happens on Sunday in terms of the protest?
Well, I hope that all of those who have felt the need to make their views known, as they would have done had we been inside the stadium. Let's be clear
Yeah,
about this. People are saying, "Oh, you'll impact on the team." Well, we've taken steps to try and minimise that in the sense that we won't be there at the time when they're coming in. But if we'd been in the stadium, people would have been expressing their views all the way through the game for 90
yeah.
minutes. We're talking about being outside 2 hours before. Well, they won't even drive past us. So I don't see that. So what I hope to achieve, I hope to give people the opportunity to express their anger, to say what they need to say, to do that safely, for us all then to go away. Because let's be honest, until it's mathematically impossible for us to win this league, nobody's given up, are they? I mean,
Yeah. I said that yesterday.
most
Yeah.
people, most people are not. I'm certainly not giving up. I'm a glass half full sort of a woman, so I'm not giving up. My head tells me one thing, my heart tells me another. That's the reality. So we're looking for the team to come out and actually just show us something more, do something more. But what we're mainly looking for is those people who are charged with the responsibility of running this club, our club, to step up to the mark. They should have had a plan B. They could see what we could see, and why was something not done before now? And if they did try and do stuff and it didn't work, they should have shared that with us. They should have been talking to us all of the way along. No sitting inside a boardroom or inside their kitchen, I suppose, or their living room. The bet games, they're the ones that have been going to games. It's not us. They should have been speaking to us. And had they spoke to us, then maybe what happened a couple of weeks ago down at the park and then the following week would not have happened. And I hold them responsible for that.
Yeah, that's where the anger came from. It's not been listened to the board. Final question I've got for you. I just want to know what the relationship has been, over the last few days with yourselves and maybe some other Celtic groups. I saw, I think the Green Brigade, or not the Green Brigade, the North Curve, who encompass the Green Brigade, tweeted yesterday showing their support for the protest on Sunday. Is it a united front at the moment in terms of a lot of these Celtic groups like yourselves and others?
I don't think it would. So the other so we have always worked with all the Celtic supporters organisation. In fact, when we set up the trust, we actually offered them a place on our board, all of the constituted organisations. So the Celtic Supporters Association, of which I'm a member, I travel on an association bus. The Affiliation of Registered Celtic Supporters, the Irish Association, the North American Federation. Those were the main ones who were in existence 20 years ago, and we offered them a seat. They never took it, and that's fine. That's okay. We have always worked with them. We set up FAC with them. We continue to liaise with them. We spoke to them last week and said, we're going to do this. They've chosen not to do it, and that, as is their right, they can do that. And that's where we are. So we're not falling out.
Yeah.
No, there's no split. But there is a division on, and there is a concern about how best to do things. They've taken one decision and they're responsible to their members. We've taken this decision. If our members turn up at our AGM in January and say that was a terrible thing, we now want, we want to replace you, that's democracy. That's absolutely fine. But that's what we did. So no, I don't think there's a division. Tomorrow and next week and next month and next year, we will still be talking to our colleagues and the other organisations, some of whom will have cross membership with us. So they'll have members that are in the trust, and as I've said, we've got people in the trust who are members of their organisations, including myself.
Excellent. Well, I hope it goes well on Sunday. To anyone that's watching this video and wants to go along, remember, you have to be local, you have to be wearing a face mask, 2 metre distancing.
We'll have some masks there just in case anybody forgets on the day, so we'll have masks there. Please just follow the instructions about where to stand, and that's all we can do.
Definitely. Jeanette, it's been brilliant to have you on. Thanks very much for your time,
Okay,
and go and reply to those emails.
right, no problem. Okay, listen, see you again.